残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ。
Hello, Alex.
Greetings.
Hello, Alex.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Alex.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, I've been just absolutely great.
So here's the thing. I know you're on the offensive right now about certain something. So Neon Genesis Evangelion, I've tried for years to try to get you into this show. Is that not
To no avail.
Yes. No, I haven't budged you in the slightest.
Many a times I've given you a chance to change my mind, and many a times you have failed miserably like the worthless whelp you are.
Well, today I'm gonna try to change your mind into watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I'm gonna tell you viewers as well about the news that I have currently within my brain.
yes, you will be along for the ride just as I am, trying to actually be interested in this.
So yeah. Let me talk a little bit about this. So, of course, a little bit of history about the series, because I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you know anything about Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I do not.
Okay. Well, of course, there's the original series. There's the TV and the movies that are going on Netflix. Some of the movies, not all of them.
We all know what happens about Netflix adaptations.
Well, they're not adaptations. They're just being on Netflix, and this is going to be the only streaming service. So, let's talk about that. Well, of course, there's the original series, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which aired in 1995 all the way to 1996. Now, admittedly, it wasn't the most satisfying version. When I mean version, I mean like the ending. But the original anime series is one of the best places to start if you want to get into Evangelion and get the full head-screwy Evangelion experience that everyone craves. And this is the one that is coming to Netflix on June 21st, the 26-episode series.
So it's a reboot or a continuation?
It's the show, just like the original show, because it was never available before. You can't find it on streaming sites other than Funimation, if I'm correct. And it's hard to get a hold of the DVD or the Blu-ray collection because they're super expensive, as they should be, because they're super rare. So, a little bit more about the show. Now, the ending of the show, this is what led to 2 movies being made. The ending of this show, episode 25 and 26, they were bad. They were really bad. People sending death threats. That's how bad they were.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now, I'll say this. I don't think they're horrible, but I'll state right up front that the end of Evangelion is definitely my preferred ending to the series, without a doubt. The reason for it, without spoiling anything, of course, because I'm trying to get you into this without having to spoil it.
First spoiler-free review.
Now, without spoiling anything, the series was pushed out because of deadlines and throughout its production, and many fans felt that the ending was either rushed or poorly thought out by the director, Ano Hideki, who is the creator of the show. Who, honestly, really, he never figured out how he wanted to end the series properly by that point. So in response to the widespread outrage, Ano and the anime studio Gainax produced 2 movies in 1997. Both of them came out the same year, to fix the Neon Genesis Evangelion and to give it the proper ending it really deserved. Anyways, in 1997, Evangelion Death and Rebirth, or as most people know it as Death True 2, came out, which was the first of the 2 released quickly after the series ended, as the direct sequel created again by Ano Hideki to appease fan demand for a better conclusion to the story. Now, Death True 2 is effectively a feature-length recap of the show with extra unaired footage, stopping just short of the end of the series, if you follow what I'm saying so far.
Oh, I'm following all right.
So pretty much, it's a recap with some new things. But there is the End of Evangelion movie, which was also released in 1997. It was released in theaters a few months after Death True 2. End of Evangelion gives the anime series the grander send-off it deserved at the time. Whether this ending is the definitive one is something Evangelion devotees will debate forever, in my opinion. Aside from that, End of Evangelion has made frequent appearances on best of animated movies lists ever since it was released. So both Death True 2 and the end of Evangelion will be on Netflix for all to watch. Now that won't be on Netflix is the only thing that won't be on Netflix is the Evangelion Rebuild series, which is still currently being put out as we're speaking.
Oh. Actually, I do have one little question for you. What's this rebuild you were talking about?
Oh, the rebuild? Okay,
You saying that it was garbage before?
Oh, no, I never said it was garbage. The rebuild of Evangelion is a series of movies, which started back in 2007. They're essentially a revamp of Evangelion, once again for the big screen. The movies comprise of Evangelion 1.0, You Are Not Alone, 2.0, You Cannot Advance, and 3.0, You Cannot Redo, with the fourth and final installment, 3.0 plus 1.0, set for a release in 2020.
I really don't want you to continue watching this series with names like that. For good reason.
Now, the first three haven't deviated. I wouldn't say that they deviated too significantly from the original series, but I will get to that. The fourth one has promised a very completely different ending to the series. They're not necessarily needed to watch, but if you want to watch, if you don't want to watch the whole series, you definitely could watch the Rebuild series, but you would miss a lot of context and a lot of story driven stuff. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, these movies are amazing, so I'd say watch them personally, but I would say watch them afterwards.
After the shows. Well, maybe I just don't want to watch them at all.
Well, maybe if I give you a story summary, you might be convinced a little bit more.
Try it.
Okay, so Neon Genesis Evangelion was first broadcast in public television in 1995. It premiered as a tribute to the mecha anime predecessors like Mobile Suit Gundam, as the teenage Shinji Ikari finds himself pressed into piloting Evangelion Unit 101 by his father. Now, Commander Gendo Ikari is the director of an organization called NERV, originally formed to combat the aliens that invaded the planet, which are called Angels. After First Contact resulted in a catastrophic event which killed more than 2 billion people, or pretty much half the population of the world.
Angels? Calling them angels? I don't want religion in my movies. I don't want any of that. I want that to stay in the books where it belongs.
To be fair, the whole religious aspect to Evangelion, it's more just imagery than it is like anything else. It's just cool imagery, which is what the director wanted. He loved Christianity and the imagery of it, and so he wanted that to be a big part of Evangelion, giving it its iconic look, which he succeeded in that. Now, as for the cultural impact, from what I heard of Evangelion, it really wasn't hugely popular in Japan when it first came out. Over time, it became one of the most popular anime. It's one of those series that even people, and I'm of course talking about Japanese people, that is, who aren't into anime tend to love it. Like if you ask the average Japanese person if they like anime, they might say no, but they might like Evangelion. So it's one of those shows, and I know many people like that. I remember, a few of my friends who are Japanese, native, I asked them, are you into, anime, or do you like anime? It comes up in conversation. Don't ask me why. And
gee, I wonder why.
So yeah. So I asked them, like, oh, are you into it? Because I'm, why not? And the conversation started. And I will say half the time they say no, but more often than not, Evangelion is on their list of, oh, but I really love Evangelion. It's a classic.
So you're saying it's mainstream?
It's yes, it's not quite Gundam level, and I wouldn't say it's like a huge like behemoth of a franchise like Fate, even though it definitely is more. It has been more successful than Fate. It's just Fate is like more recent.
It's too far up there.
So like Neon Genesis Evangelion has a huge cult following and is very like a part of just Japanese culture at this point. Anno Hideki is very popular amongst Japanese people, and I mean they have Evangelion stores everywhere we walk in Tokyo. I've been to many malls, and I'll find like, oh, here's another Evangelion store, and then that's where I buy my figures or my shirts, which is quite funny.
Exactly.
Why
should I watch something that's just so mainstream?
Well, I think mainly because it's a big subversion of the genre and subversion in expectations. And what I mean by that is, like, before Evangelion, you have the mecha genre, right?
Yes.
They're pretty much all the same. They're all unique in themselves, but like the concept and premise is all the same, and it's always kind of like fun, happy-go-lucky. Like, oh, we're mecha,
We're protecting the
we're
planet in
protecting
giant
the planet.
robots.
We're having a war. It's like Ultraman.
We're having a war.
We're having a war. It's fun. It's like people associated it more with fun. Kind of like you watch the Avengers. You don't expect it to be dark and gritty. You expected it to be fun. You know, oh, I'm going to watch a Marvel movie. Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of the very few examples of like a show that when you first upon seeing it, it looks like, oh, it's another
it's a
fun,
lighthearted comedy kind of
mecha genre anime. And then you watch and you're like, oh Jesus.
This is garbage.
It's like, Jesus Christ, this is not what I expected. So it's like it's also another example of that would be Madoka Magica, which is a show that's like magical girls. And when you see the cover, whenever I've showed it to people, they're like, oh, what's this? This is goofy. It's stupid. It's for little girls. And then they watch the third episode and like, oh, Jesus Christ, what am I watching? It's like everyone freaks the fuck out.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Everyone's like crazy about it. They're like, this is the darkest, this is the most unpleasant show I've ever seen, and it has to do with magical girls. Same thing with Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's a very nihilistic series, very nihilistic, very dark, but not in a bad like, oh, we're edgy. It's in a very artistic way, and it reflects the creator who made it, who had severe depression when he made the show.
I didn't make the show.
We're leaving that in.
The silence. The silence and the eye contact just. Oh.
All right. So when it comes to the show, like I said, it's a subversion of the genre, but also it subverts your expectations in many ways. There are things in the show where it's like, it's unpredictable. A lot of the time, it's unpredictable, and sometimes it can be like, oh, big baddie of the week type deal, where it's like, oh, there's another angel on we have to fight him. But it's a lot deeper than just that. It has heavy amounts of like dealing with the main character's depression, dealing with how these kids have to pilot the Ava units when they don't really want to, except for Asuka. She's the only one who's like, oh yes, I am Asuka. I want to pilot
I'm
it.
Asuka. I want to drive the robot.
Yeah, so except for her, it's like, you know, you have Shinji Ikari, who's just the most depressed and pathetic protagonist ever, which I know people got mad at me when I said he was pathetic. I want people to know that I don't mean that he's a bad character. I mean he's a pathetic person.
He's a pathetic human being.
Yes, like his character, he's a great character. I sympathize
so
with him.
Mean.
But he's pathetic when you watch the series, you'll know what I mean. Like,
I know you can have a pathetic protagonist, but just calling him that, it just sounds mean.
But he's very like sympathetic, and it's like you do end up, you like him, but at the same time it's like, oh, like Jesus, like you feel bad for him, but it's like you get
make something of yourself, you little shit.
I don't mean that this is bad. I just mean that
I do.
That's kind of what I mean. Like, it's not bad. It's just, you know, that's kind of how that's how a lot
of protagonists are. They're weak and pathetic and have a mental problem, but still get all the girls. Meanwhile, I'm here with more mental flaws than a fucking block of Swiss cheese. Not a goddamn girl to my name. Is killing me slowly.
So yeah, I believe that the subversion of the genre, subversion of expectations is all important, but at the end of the day, it's also a good, engaging story. The world is fantastic, soundtrack is great, and all the characters are very memorable. You have great characters like Asuka, Rei, Shinji, Misato, who Misato probably being one of my favorite characters in the show because she's one of the only people in the show that actually give a damn about the kids and actually likes them and tries to help them. So I really like her. But I really like the show. I think the series is very well animated. It's beautifully animated at times, and it has some of the best action scenes you'll ever see in anime. You'll always find it on lists of top 10 best anime fight scenes of all time.
Speaking of the actual series in a whole, is there any difference between the original and the rebuild?
I'll attempt to answer this question without giving any specific plot spoilers. The original Evangelion series was the creation of a young man searching for answers, pretty much, to sum it up. The rebuild of Evangelion is the creation of an adult who has found those answers, if that makes at all sense, what I'm trying to say.
Sort of.
Evangelion with Love and Hate is a deeply personal work that acts as the emotional and philosophical autobiography of Anno Hideki, who is the creator. The original Evangelion was created when Anno Hideki was 35 years old, and he was deeply depressed and deeply, deeply lonely in his life.
I sympathize.
Whereas the rebuild of Evangelion was created 12 years later when Hideki was 47 years old, secure in his legacy and happily married. And he was a very respectable and successful filmmaker. I mean, he made one of the most successful Japanese movies, Shin Godzilla. Now, the rebuild of Evangelion, the films, do something quite unique amongst remakes. They are a return to the original, but instead of just making small and technical updates, sort of like, Star Wars, or completely reimagining the story like most Hollywood remakes, such as Planet of the Apes, they present the same basic plot as the original, but the characters make slightly better choices this time around. The original Evangelion was noted for its emotionally intense situations full of characters who often act out of fear, selfishness, or resentment. Rebuild of Evangelion shows these same characters in the same situations, more or less, but they are ever so slightly more patient and understanding and compassionate towards one another. Now, that being said, it starts off very subtle with barely any differences between the original and the remake, but eventually these small changes really snowball into a very completely different story and different situations as a result of the characters who are slightly more mature and capable of, these types of actions, including adding an entirely new character by the name of Mari. Mari, who's honestly, in my opinion, just fan service.
Mariana Grande.
Because she really doesn't have that much of a character. I never really understood her, but whatever. So watching the rebuild a decade after watching the original feels like visiting an old friend who you used to see as a very troubled individual, and now seeing that they've gotten their act together. And that's really how I would summarize the difference between the two works.
Like me, except I still haven't got my act together.
Well, it could change.
Yeah, it could. Unlike me, because I'm still not watching that trash!
So after all that, Alex, and the audience, are you at least slightly more interested in watching Evangelion?
Well, even though I can't speak for the audience, I'll say for myself, maybe this time, after all these years of trying to convince me, you swayed me a little. I'll go, check out the movies, and then, maybe I'll dip into the shows a little bit more.
Oh, great. Okay, at least it's a start, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but then again, I might just, forget about it as soon as I get home and pass out.
Get drunk.
Yes, get very drunk, because every moment I spend with you is just one less brain cell I have to keep.
That is quite the analogy, Captain.
Thank you, Mr. Spock. I appreciate the compliment. Now, launch us to the next video.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. I am Spock, and today we're going to end
We are not
this video.
copyrighted.
Did you like this video? Are you interested in watching Evangelion? If so, write down below. We are mildly intrigued to hearing your responses. Some would say, fascinated. As always, live long and prosper.
They can't see you do that.
I will put it on screen.
No, you
Jim,
won't.
my old friend.
Shut up.
Why did we reference Star
I
Trek?
don't know. You called me captain, so I went with it.
Next on One for Review.
Someone for review. We'll do a Star Trek review. No, we won't.